afternoon, and thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. Today we're in the kitchen with professional chef Curtis Hemm of Pink Ribbon Cooking. Now, we've all heard the message that one of the best ways to a healthier lifestyle is to increase plant-based foods in our diet. So Curtis is here to discuss and demonstrate strategies that can help us create healthier dishes using more plant-based foods. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you.
For viewers who don't realize or don't know about your background with Pink Ribbon Cooking, tell us about that.
Sure. So my wife, Bridget, is a 10-year breast cancer survivor, so she was diagnosed early 30s. And so we've been really focused on how to cook healthy in our house, in particularly for her, but also my son growing up with that as a mindset. So I started a publishing company, Pink Ribbon Cooking, and we run a website, pinkribbon.cooking.com. We do downloadable recipe packs. We do membership website. But we're a coach for somebody in the kitchen that wants to learn how to cook, because a lot of people just simply, reality is they don't know how to cook anymore.
Now, we were talking about plant-based, but boy, this meat smells amazing.
Yeah, this is pretty good. And I chose this meat as a way to really emphasize how plants can play a role in a dish. And bring satisfaction. So this is lamb that I have harvested every year. It's from Valley View Farms on Chazy Lake Road. My good friend Warren Newman. My whole family is addicted to this lamb. And what's great about it is it's grass-fed, and you don't need a lot of it. And that's really the driving point here, is we want to be able to increase our plants, but not really increase the footprint of what a reasonable-sized portion would be. So the plants are meant to complement the flavor of the lamb. And this could be steelhead trout. It could be grass-fed beef, it could be, local poultry, whatever that is. But we want to be able to spend some money on a good quality product and use the vegetables to kind of enhance the nutritional and flavor presence of the dish itself.
Okay, great. And so now we're talking about plant-based, so you've got a variety of different items here.
Yeah. So we have, the goal here is that we want a small footprint of meat, and we want to be able to get past just the essential components of protein, fat, and carbohydrates. The one thing about plants that people don't realize is, besides adding texture, so from a culinary standpoint, I like the texture of the plants, they add a lot of nutrients to them. And so there's phytochemicals and phytonutrients that are found only in plant-based foods. And a lot of those components have anti-cancer properties. They round out the nutritional profile of a dish. And they really provide a lot of things besides just shiny colors that your body needs.
Right.
They're not life-sustaining, but your body needs them for overall wellness and health.
It's all about rounding out your diet.
It is, 100%. And one of the things that we focus on is a variety of different things. So I have meat here, but we're going to have a small amount. So when you eat this, it's about 3 ounces of lamb. I chose mushrooms because mushrooms have the same satisfying sensation, that umami-type flavor that lamb has, that meat has. So if somebody's a big meat eater and they're used to having these big-sized steaks, mushrooms are a perfect complement. One of the best mushrooms that we can eat nutritionally is a shiitake mushroom. And it's really easy to grow these yourself as well. And then oyster mushrooms we have, and then cremini, baby bellas.
Right.
I also wanted to introduce the concept of beans, because beans, for a lot of people, it's a legume. It's very rich in fiber. It's something that we don't often think about, but from a culinary standpoint, they add a really nice texture to that. In addition, I wanted to enhance the nutrition, so I threw in some roasted garlic cloves. You just take a head of garlic, wrap it in aluminum foil, throw it in 375-degree oven for an hour, take it out, let it cool.
And so what does garlic give you?
Garlic has allicin in it, which is it's most pungent when it's raw, but it gives you a flavor standpoint that goes well with all of this, and it does give you some anti-cancer properties as well. And there's tons of pundits that go garlic this way, garlic that way. I just know it's good for you, and it's a flavor note that we all respond to.
Right.
And I have some Brussels sprout leaves because I want some green in there as well. We've got some fresh herbs, which have a lot of essential oils. And then kind of the co-star of this dish is the parsnip puree. So this is just parsnips, which is those white carrots in the store.
Yep.
And they have some milk just to cover. And then I cooked it down, and we're going to puree this. So it looks ugly because milk curdles when you cook it like this, but it'll be smooth as can be, and it'll be gorgeous when we're done with it.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and turn these lamb, because what we're looking for is medium rare. And one of the tricks to lamb, especially chops, is you preheat your grill, and we're using a grill pan, which is perfect. But you set it once and you walk away from it. Don't fidget with this stuff. Don't keep turning it, because what you won't get is that crust that you hear. You won't be able to get that. It'll just kind of steam in its own juices.
A lot of people do that. When they're cooking meat, they play with it almost. Just turn it around.
Even young chefs, I see that. They do it all the time. And I set stuff down, I forget about it, I walk away, I come back, and it's the way it should be.
Or the worst is making a hamburger and pushing down on it.
Yeah, you push out all the juices. I'm not going to press on any of this stuff. We're going to go to medium rare. But you can see even this fat. And so one of the benefits of having one chop is we know that this is about 210 calories. It's a defined amount of nutritional analysis. But look at that fat. That's crispy. That's going to add so much satisfaction to somebody that they're not going to need a lot of this stuff.
I'll just eat the fat.
Yeah. So one of the things I want to get going are these mushrooms and this vegetable. This is all going to be in one pan. We're going to hit some extra virgin olive oil. That's about 2 or 3 tablespoons. Remember, this is for 4 people. Okay. I said 4 people, right? And I put up 5 fingers. So I've got my pan preheated. I'm going to turn up the heat a little bit. One of the things you're going to notice is mushrooms absorb the liquid. So you kind of let them, if you want them crispy, you can do that. Let them just kind of cook for a bit. And so we're going to spread those out because we want them to kind of caramelize a bit before we add the other ingredients. The one thing I am going to put in there, though, is that roasted garlic, so that flavor can start to come out and perfume the mushrooms. And again, this is really going to take 10 minutes at the most.
Now, you're talking about adopting a plant-based diet. You're not advocating people just jump in wholeheartedly. You say a slow approach is best.
Yeah, I think with any change that you're going to implement, never jump off the bridge. Honestly, it's the single most critical thing for failure, is if you just go cold turkey and jump off of it, it's not going to really work for you. And one of the things that we encourage people is to kind of map how they eat, map what they like, and really just kind of focus on those things and then kind of move forward a little bit. Take it slow. You have to walk before you run.
Right. Don't just eat a full kale on diet.
No, I think, if you go from eating, a 60-ounce steak every night to kale smoothies, it's not going to work for you. I mean, you must really like kale if you do that. So I'm going to go ahead, just give that a toss. Again, if you don't want to toss in your house, just stir it. It's fine. What we don't want to do is move it too much, but we don't want to burn those either. I'm going to go ahead and make my parsnip puree.
Okay.
And so you can see I did put a little sprig of rosemary in there as I cooked it, just to kind of perfume it and scent it. And so this is a tool. It's a high-tech torture device. It's just a little burr mixer. You can buy them anywhere. They're about $10. I've had this one for 15 years now, I think. And when you use a small pot, what you want to watch out for is that your liquid comes up to about here.
Yeah, I'll stand back.
So I turn my pot on its side, just tilt it, and then I start pureeing. If you have knife skills, wear an apron in the kitchen. So this is basically replacing mashed potatoes. And the benefit is you get the fiber of the parsnip. You get a very low glycemic load from the, because they're not using a potato. You could do this with sweet potato if you wanted to. You could just simply roast it. But I like the parsnip. There's a little spiciness to the parsnip that goes really well with this dish.
You can really smell the rosemary.
Yeah. What we will do, though, is we'll put just a touch of butter in there. And again, there's about 9 grams of fat in a tablespoon of butter. That's a half tablespoon. But what that does is really round out the puree. We can do this with olive oil, too. You can get that as smooth as you want. Yeah, I know. I got myself, too. Sorry about that.
A little puree on my nose.
Okay, so we have our mushrooms. They're nice and caramelized.
Oh, they're beautiful.
We're going to go ahead and we're going to add our beans and our Brussels sprouts. These are leaves of Brussels sprouts. And to get the leaves, you simply cut the base off and you just start pulling the Brussels sprouts apart.
Why just the leaves?
Just a different. You could do it. You could slice the whole Brussels sprout in half if you wanted to. It's up to you. I just like the leaf because we're not really going for a large amount of green in it per se, because we have the beans and we have the mushrooms and we have the parsnip. Don't forget, this is one of our main vegetables.
Right.
So this is to complement everything else.
Now, you do encourage people to get creative.
I do. I mean, I think you should find a food that you haven't had, add it to ones that you like, and see how that goes for you. I mean, really just kind of play around with it. I mean, you can add a different type of mushroom. You could add carrots to this if you wanted to.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
You could change the beans. Try garbanzo beans. If you've had it with white beans, try garbanzo beans. If you don't like beans, try wild rice.
Okay.
Which is a whole grain. You could use quinoa or something else like that. So.
They also say to involve the entire family. Give everyone a job.
100%. And so the kids can pick very easily the Brussels sprout leaves. They can help cut up the mushrooms. They can do a lot of things. They can help chop up the parsnips. Kids, my son loves this tool.
I bet.
So it's fun. It's a little motorboat. He keeps thinking he can put it in a canoe and kind of go forward with it. So I am going to grab some chives really quick
Okay.
and just kind of chop those up. And also think color. One of the things that we forget about is that we eat with our eyes too. And so I've got some green in here. We've got the dark brown. About the only thing we're missing is orange and probably a little bit of red. So I want to add some dark green because dark green really brings out the color of the lamb. And it offsets the white of the plate because we're going to use a white plate.
Okay.
And notice I'm doing kind of big chunks of chives. I'm not doing these little micro slices.
Right.
Now, if you wanted to go and put smaller pieces in the parsnip, you could, but we're going to just rely on this in here. And so you can see we got a lot of color. We've got some really nice brownie of the mushrooms. We've got some green setting. The pigment in the Brussels sprouts are setting. We've got that beautiful color of the lamb. I'm going to add a little salt, so this is just sea salt. Some pepper. And so we're going to play a little trick on people. We're going to add a little olive oil, and that's going to kind of coat our tongue. But this is a really good source of fat for us.
Okay.
And that's, at this point, the mushrooms aren't going to absorb that. So that's just kind of our...
Gives it a nice gloss.
It is. So now we'll plate, and as we plate, we'll kind of talk through it. One of the things, too, you could do, and I forgot to mention this, if you wanted a little sauce from this, you could add just a touch of water. And then kind of cook that out. And that will also finish setting the pigment on the and that's just straight up tap water or bottled water or whatever you have with you. So the first thing I want to put down is the parsnip puree. And so this is going to absorb also all of the juices from the lamb chop. So this is really probably the most harmless thing here. It's parsnips and it's milk. A little bit of butter, salt, and pepper. And this is also going to be what people kind of scrape up their plate with. So you want this to kind of be a generous portion. And again, it's not a potato, so you don't have this high caloric
Right. It's just
component
loaded with
there.
flavor without all the calories.
Right. I'll just rinse off my spoon really quick. Next thing we want to do is take in some of our beans and our mushrooms, kind of put those around. Roasted garlic.
Looks really good. I mean, this alone would probably fill most people up, just this portion.
Just this portion. And if you were a vegetarian, you could simply stop here. You could even put a piece of seared firm tofu on that if you wanted to. And now we're going to go ahead and put our lamb chop on. And I think I'll take this one because this one has that nice fat component I was talking about. Put it right on top. We'll get some herbs. So we've got some fresh rosemary here. This is some mint. This is the flour component of mint. And again, the whole green component kind of sets off the dish for people. And one of the tricks that we use professionally is if you bring a little height to a dish, it tends to make people think there's a lot more food. And so if you're talking about going out to eat, one of the things that you have to look at and what you determine psychologically as value is how much food covers the plate.
Right.
And so what we did was we took a puree, we put a piece of lamb on top of it, and it forced the puree out from a small footprint to a larger footprint. Around there, we've got these healthy beans, mushrooms, and Brussels sprouts. And so psychologically, we look at this and we say, wow, that is a lot of food.
Yeah.
But most of it is plant-based.
That's wonderful. Now, how can people find out more about pink ribbon cooking and maybe some recipes to try?
Sure, you can go to our website, pinkribboncooking.com. And we'll also be at the Vermont Breast Cancer Conference doing culinary demonstrations just like this, really showing people how simple healthy food can be and going from that. So why don't you give that a try?
Okay, I will. I'd love to. The hardest part, it is true that you do eat with your eyes because nothing is more discouraging if you're at a restaurant when you come and you get the plate and it's just this tiny, piece of something. It may be delicious, but still.
But that first bite has to wow you, and the second and third bite as well. And that's one of the things that we focus. Everything here is designed to work around the flavors and bring it together.
That's amazing. I'm getting like a sweet taste too.
That's the parsnip, and that's the secret ingredient for all of this. And we don't expect that.
Not at all. It's
No.
delicious.
And it's a little spicy sweet. It's almost like a nutmeg would surprise you in a dish.
Right.
But it's just simply parsnip, and they're so good for you.
Well, this is fantastic, Curtis. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Always the best part of my week. That's our program for today. I'm Judy Simpson. We'll see you again next time on Across the Fence.